In crisis, of course, there is always opportunity for Japan, certainly, but also for us all here today. That includes Hong Kong.
Japan spent the last 2 decades not as the lost 20 years, but as a period for preparation for the resurrection, and it is now making efforts to transform the recent once a millennium crisis into a once in a century opportunity.
The theme of the conference is sustainable growth. Today, on this session, we're trying to go and ask a few deeper questions, more nuanced questions about growth and what does sustainability actually mean. My understanding is yesterday, most of your conversations was about essentially the sky is the limit. There are no constraints, there are no limits. We will all grow endlessly. Today, we will ask a few more searching questions, but what does that actually mean?
We have to find our own solution to resource limitation that worked in the context of Asia. Environmental bankruptcy, like corporate bankruptcy, can happen slowly, or it can happen all of a sudden. The challenge ahead will be to keep our resources in balance, whether economic, environmental, or human. We must learn to live within the limits of this planet.
Caterpillar's been in the remanufacturing business since the 1970s, and we're one of the world's largest remanufacturers today. But there's still plenty of opportunity for growth in what is now a $100 billion global industry. These efforts are paying off for our investors and for our environment.
The many people who live in this region, who live in Africa, are dependent on the very decisions that the leaders in this room are going to be making in their respective fields. And I believe that these are the historic qualities that we, with God's help, they must characterize our conduct in the years to come for a sustainable world.
I am not worried about a lack of liquidity in the renminbi to support the growth, because if Asia and China and Hong Kong continue to perform its role as an offshore renminbi center, the market will be able to develop.
The two markets, onshore and offshore, are all, of course, segregated. But in the past, we were able to observe in terms of interest rate and exchange rate, there have been a gap between the two markets. However, we also observe that that gap is narrowing between the onshore and offshore market because of the increasing integration of the two markets. With more products, there will be more investors' interest in holding and investing in RMB products, whether they be deposits or short-term or long-term products. So we have to come up with the products in order to grow this RMB pool.
Asia is in a good position to respond to these volatile times, this period of uncertainty. It can't insulate itself completely from the world. It's part of the global economy. Globalization has meant that it's integrated into the global economy, and you can't really insulate yourself fully. But you can have policy frameworks that enable you to respond and respond quickly, aware of the risks that you are facing. If China and other countries in Asia imitate America's pattern of consumption, our planet is doomed. There is no future. I mean, global warming is serious. So what will have to happen is that the pattern of consumption will have to be changed to be less resource intensive, and the critical variable here is to start charging for natural resources.
to my mind, it's really a sort of obligation of Hong Kong, if it wants to retain its status as a leading international financial center, to really educate the rest of the world about what are the developments with this currency, what are the limits of its investment potential at the moment.
And if you listen to Osborne, the Chancellor of Exchequer, I mean, he actually said, well, we are going to supplement what Hong Kong is doing. So I think Hong Kong would still be leading so far as that is concerned, and also the proximity of Hong Kong to China. That is a very great advantage.
Li Keqiang's visit was in August of last year, and an enormous amount has happened, actually. A lot of discussion, certainly, and thinking about investment use of the renminbi since that visit. So things do move very quickly.
But if people took a view that the appreciation of the RMB was over, then I think the authorities would have to make more effort to stimulate the growth of RMB offshore than they have hitherto had to.
China is looking for creativity and innovation. So despite the fact that it had been encouraged that mainland entities wanting to invest overseas, the mainland authorities very much prefer them to partner with Hong Kong or to start in Hong Kong before they go overseas, i.e. using Hong Kong as a springboard. In the same token, they want offshore renminbi, if they want to develop, to be developed in Hong Kong first before it goes overseas. It really depends on the speed that Hong Kong can come up with innovative creation and system enhancement, etc., etc.
I think it's on its way to go through the several stages of becoming a global currency. You can say it's a pricing currency, it's a settlement currency, certainly a trade currency. So certainly, we do think it's going to happen. It's not a question if it's going to happen, it's a question when it's going to happen.